What's up, guys? Just on the lines here. We're gonna be talking. We're gonna be going over the ban list today. Ban list is coming up in a couple of weeks now, and I figured why not give my intakes on some of the stuff that might or should be hit. It's gonna be a really extensive list. It might take a while for me to get through all of this, so let's just go right ahead. Okay, first things first. We're gonna be talking about the ban stuff. I don't think there's anything really ban worthy. I said this like 2 4 minutes ago that nothing currently deserves to be banned. In fact, I think more stuff needs to come off the ban list than things need to go on the ban list, because nothing right now is particularly too broken for it to be banned. That my opinion might change as the format continues, but as it stands, I don't think it'll change though. We're just gonna go right into that. Next is limited. A Vanity's Emptiness needs to go on. People are saying that we should ban this card right out, but I think we kind of need to keep it in the game, mostly because it does keep decks in check. Um, if you can stop your opponent for one turn, and then you can go all out and all that stuff, it's still good. I mean, even at one, it's probably still going to be ran. I don't think it'll do that much harm to put it at one. Plus, it'll ease the tension of games a little bit more. So yeah, skill drain to one. People have been saying that skill drain need to be at one for a long time. Skill drain does need to be limited. Again, I don't think it needs to be banned, mostly because banning it would be too much. Again, it's like Vanity's Emptiness. We need to keep it in the game to keep certain decks in check, and I think this card does do that. I think it does it on average. It does it pretty well. But skill drain is probably likely to get hit. They probably won't hit much of the Cliff Force stuff, even though I do have some Cliff Force stuff that I think should get hit. But I think it might not ever get hit. At least at right now. Um, but regardless of that, skill drain does perpetuate Cliff Forts and it perpetuates old plays. So I think limiting this would be a good thing for right now. Firelight of the Burning Abyss. I know this card is relatively new and people and all that, but anyway, it's a +2 if you play the card correctly. In addition, it's recyclable by Dante, and I didn't want to limit Dante or any of the Burning Abyss cards itself, other than Fire Lake, because Fire Lake is the only card that really makes a difference in the deck. In general, it makes it tier 0, and generally tier 0s aren't very good. We can deal with tier 1s, but we can't deal with tier 0s or tier 0.5s, tier 0.5s. Regardless of this, but it's just an overall broken card because you discard 2 cards to pop 3. That's just good in and of itself, but the fact that you get their effects later on is still pretty good. But I don't think it's necessarily ban worthy because they'll need that one. They'll need that one out. So that's how I see it. Next is Karma Cut or Phoenix Wing Blast. I don't think both will get limited at the same time. I think Phoenix Wing Blast has a higher chance of getting limited though, mainly because it does more than Karma Cut does. Because banishing it really doesn't matter as much as sending a card to the top of the deck, because it sets your opponent back a turn or two, and it's just overall good. Karma Cut, sure, it banishes a monster, but that monster also has to be face up, and additionally that it it's more situational because you have to be very very careful which card you banish with this card. So next is the El Shaddoll fusions, mainly Winda and Construct. We're not going to target Igristol or the Earth one, but I think these two need to be hits in some way, shape, or form. I think Construct will probably be more likely to hit the one, mostly because it's more broken than Winda. There are outs to Winda that people don't really understand. Winda's not that good. Winda's not that broke. It just can't be stopped by a card effect. It can't be destroyed by card effects. It's not unaffected by them. But Construct, I think, is significantly better because it's a Cataster, Foolish Burial, and a um, and sort of a Magician of Faith all in one. And that alone, plus it has 2800 attack, so it's kind of big. It's pretty beefy. So yeah. Next card, and again, this is one of the cards that I don't think will get hit hard. Is Sacrifice. Sacrifice is kind of a mainstay in Cliff Forts, and I think going to one might actually do some good for the deck because they don't have to rely on that one Cliff cell. They have to rely on actually summoning monsters and having a board presence first. Whereas Sacrifice kind of eliminates that whole process of having a board presence. You'll just have to you'll have some board presence with two monsters in Sacrifice where one counts as two. Um, but mainly I think it's not going to be efficient in the mainstay currently. I think it's going to be too good because Colonel is pretty good. I think people are going to probably run that over Killer once it comes out. Next is Monarch Stormforth because mostly because the ruling is downright screwed on this card. Um, Monarch Stormforth happens to be. Oh, whoa! I totally skipped a card, but we'll get back to it in a minute later. Monarch Stormforth basically says, "Hey, I'm going to take your monster and tribute it off." So next card, and this is the card I skipped, is Summoner's Art. I think this card will probably be limited mostly because of Cliff Forts. But that's why I say that nothing will probably get hit for Cliff Forts directly. But Summoner's Art might get hit simply because it does that. It searches out their Stratos so that they can play Stratos to activate Stratos. So it's the Stratos for Stratos. So um, next card we're going to talk about are cards that are going to be coming off the ban list. I think to one, and I think the cards should go to one. The first card is Elemental is Stratos. Stratos, I mean, Tool is at 3, and Earth is at Agent of Earth is at 3. Bujin Yamato is at 3. If you really want to be technical, Hedgehog is at 3, Deneb is at 3, so I think Stratos can come back to 1, mainly because every other deck has their Stratos, except E-Heroes, sort of. Well, they have E-Call, but that's beside the point. Plus, they need to support the new structure deck that's coming out. Dark Magician of Chaos. What this? I don't think this card will do that much in the meta game. I think people will test it out and try it, and people will trust me when I say this, people will try this card out because it's Demog, and people are wanting this card to come back. Whatever cards attacked, it's banished, which kind of gives anti-meta a little bit more presence, but I really don't think that it'll do good in anti-meta because they don't rely on big beaters. They sort of rely on small beaters. They sort of rely on beaters, but they're not Chaos Sorcerer big. Dark Magician of Chaos big. So next card is Dark Strike Fighter, mostly because of the errata. If they didn't have the errata, I would probably say yeah, it could stay there if it wanted to. So next is Sinister Serpent. It's just a free discard. It's really all that is. Um, I mean, I mean, Burning Abyss have free discards, and if you really want to think about it, Cliff or Shaddolls technically have a free discard. Sure, it has to be a cost, but regardless of that, um, Sinister Serpent is just isn't good. I don't think very many people will even run it. They might play around with it just like they will with Dark Magician Chaos, mostly because it's Sinister Serpent and it's an old card. But right now, I don't think it'll do anything in the format, or in the next formats for that matter. Next is Solemn Judgment. We're going to need these Alcindor Cloths. Sure, they want to perpetuate the deck as much as possible, but what about those people who don't want to play the deck? This card also stops Clifforts and Burning Abyss and everything else, so it's a good counter to the meta. Everybody will probably be running it at least at 1. If not, they won't run it at all. So next card is Heavy Storm Slash. Or, this is an big Harpy's Feather Duster. I think Harpy's Feather Duster will come back first, in my opinion. Mainly because sending their Hedgehogs to the extra deck can be considered a setback. So, but Heavy Storm will just line up your setbacks too. So I think if Harvey's Feather Duster were to come back to one, it would probably be effective. Destroying all your opponent's face down, spell and traps is pretty good. Um, plus they can bring back Raigeki, so it'll be really interesting to see how this will work with both in the format. So yeah. Next, we're going to talk about the semi-limited. There's not very much that I really want to limit, except for maybe the hands. If all else fails and everything goes through like it should be, hat will be tier 1 again. Hat will be close to tier. Will probably be tier 2. Yeah, probably tier 2. Um, so I just say, well, we're just going to avoid that altogether and just semi-limit both of them. Granted, they're not unplayable at this point, but they're not as good as they used to be. I think eliminating these two cards is really too extreme. Probably because it's not efficient enough. I would say. I mean, on average, a 6 out of 40 cards is pretty good, but regardless, I think having a one of each would be too much. So, for Tool, again, if anything, I don't think this card will get hit. But if it were to get hit, I think Semi-Limited would do the trick. I don't think limiting this card would be good because it would just. I think it would hurt the deck a little bit too much. So I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna work that way. Thunder King Ryo at 2. This card is kind of been begging to get back for a long time, and for good reason. It's not that as good as it used to be. Plus, it's good to stop counter the meta with everybody having Stratoses and adding things to their hands and whatnot. So they'll be like, oh, I have to take care of your Ryo first before I can actually go off, which means I might have to waste a battle phase to do this. So it's kind of a counter to the meta. Legendary Six Samurai Shien. The OCG has this at 2. Why can't we? Mainly because Six Samurais has fallen off the face of the planet, and having a 1 is just not good enough for them anyway. Having 2 would be a perfect amount until probably a while until people stopped playing it because they realize it's inconsistent and it's not good enough yet, because they'll never get Gateway back. So, Neospecian Grand Mole. I think this card will come back to 2 mainly because it's a good counter to the rest of the meta. It can shut down the cloths. It can't shut them down. It can stop them pretty hard. It can stop cliff forts. It can stop a lot of things. So, Night Assailant to 2. Nobody's going to run this card. I don't think anybody will ever run this card ever again. It's not broken. There are no flip effects worth getting. So, yeah, and you can't get himself. So, Dark Hole or Torrential Tribute to to 2. Um, Ever since the release or the unbanning of Raigeki, both of these cards have seen a severe drop in play. Torrential Tribute more so I think that card will come back to 2 more, mainly because it's a trap and there's a lot of back row hate still. Um, so I think it'll come back to 2 more faster than Dark Hole will. Yeah, Gladiator Beast Bestiary and Glads need the little push, so give them that. Wall of Revealing Light. This card is not good. No one's gonna play this card. No one's gonna pay. Oh, I'm gonna play 7,000 life points to stop all your cards. So you can't get over me. Then you MST that, and then you attack them for 1,000 or more, and then you game them. So it's a bad card. It's bad now. Next is a Bottomless Trap Hole or Compulsory. I think either or can come back off the list. I think Bottomless will come off the list more so. Mostly because Compulse would be a little bit too broken to send a monster back to the hand for free. Um, Trap Hole is extremely efficient for getting rid of those Cliff Forts cards, and the LCG is handling Bottomless pretty well too, because they obviously have no fear against pendulums. So, and lastly, we're going to talk about the cards that are going to be unlimited. I think Glow Up Bulb is going to be unlimited, mostly because you can only use it once. Well, that's how it's the same. It's the same logic that Spore was at 1 at one point, and people thought, oh, hey, it's at 1, but people can only run 1 anyway because it says once a duel. So we're just gonna not play more than 1. We're just gonna play the 1 anyway. So they just said, yeah, you guys can have it at 3 now. Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind to go to 3. Blackwings don't do anything in the meta. I don't think Gale at 3 would make them do anything anyway. Sure, having the attack can be significant, but in the long term, I don't think it'll do much. So, Card Trooper. Card Trooper is one of those cards. Well, if we have Dante at 3, which can only do it twice, this card could do it probably once and get away with it. But Dante can do it twice and get away with it, and it's at 3. So I think this card will probably go back to 3. Tragodia and Gores, they're on the same level of hand trap stuff, and plus they're too slow in the meta. Sure, your opponent can't Bonelmus or whatever them, but I don't think it really makes much of a difference. So, yeah. So that's the list. I hope you guys enjoyed the list, and stay tuned. And please tell me what you think. What might get hit and what might not get hit. What will come off the list entirely, or what won't come off the list, or whatever. Yeah. So that's all. Chitoni Alliance signing off.